Hi, I'm Adel Rahmani, founder of Dubai Watch Club, and with me today is...
Hi everyone, I'm Alexandre Ghotbi. I am Deputy Chairman and Head of Watches at Phillips for Europe and Middle East.
Alex, I have a question.
Tell me.
Do you think Vacheron is undervalued?
the million-dollar question. And I think, yes. I'll be very honest, yes.
Define undervalued. Are you talking about in the minds of a collector or in the market, or like what is our perception or our value towards Vacheron?
Well, I think when you say our, I think mine is different to yours. That can
Probably,
be different to
like,
Khaled's, etc. I think in the market, and it is changing. It's interesting because I was speaking to I saw a few collectors this morning. Two different collectors. The first one I saw, we had coffee for breakfast, and he was wearing American 1921 in platinum with Eastern Arabic numerals. And right after him, I went and had coffee with another collector, and he was wearing the overseas with the retrograde date and the moon phase. And these are collectors which probably a few years ago would not be wearing a Vacheron Constantin. So I think Vacheron Constantin is right now, to be very honest, among the big brands, the hot kid on the block.
So earlier you said the same thing off camera. We were having a discussion. And what made you specifically use that phrase, the hot kid on the block?
Well, I was going to say the new hot kid on the block, but not new because they're actually technically the oldest watch manufacturer in the world, and they're celebrating their 270th anniversary this year. But I think for many years, Vacheron was, it's a typical Geneva Calvinistic brand with this mentality of we should do things nicely but never talk about it. People will find out. But in today's world, maybe this was definitely something that worked in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, but in today's fast-paced world with social media and new guys coming up and getting all the talk, that doesn't work. And I think it has changed. For many years, Vacheron, they only communicated on their age. And being old is good, but that's not a quality. It just means you lived longer. It doesn't mean you're a good person, that you're talented, you're whatever. So just saying we're 250 years old, 260 years old, yeah, so what? But we did this, we did that. And I think in recent years, they have their core collection, which, it's a question of taste, but some of the watches are fantastic, some are less to my taste, etc. But I think there are two domains where they're phenomenal. One is the métier d'art, their artworks.
We need to get into that, yes.
Which is like the guilloche, the enameling, the gem setting, etc. And they bring out these watches every year, and you're like, wow. Sometimes we say watches are art. These are literally artworks. Mm-hmm. And they have a guilloche artist who's from Thailand. I think his name is Supachai. He manages to make round shapes. Guilloche is either, vertical or horizontal.
It's a line, yeah.
It's lines. It looks like what he's doing is engraving. It's phenomenal. It's curved. And then all these watches they do with the métier d'art, with the date and the hours, with these apertures. And then they have they did one with the ancient civilizations, and they had, the Aztec and the Egyptians and the Persians.
The masks
it's
and the...
phenomenal, the masks. And then they had the
Louvre
pieces. Those,
the hot air balloon. Oh my God.
Incredible.
The I want one so bad.
Exactly.
I want all of them so bad.
Me too. Poetry. And then they have what they call the cabinotier, which are it's one, they bring out these unique, super complicated watches, grand sonneries, astronomical pieces, the armillery tourbillons. These are incredible. I mean, there's so many of them that sometimes I think we don't pay attention, because if they came out with one every 5 years, everybody would say, ooh. They come out with one or two every year. They're breathtaking.
It's nuts, and I don't understand why they're not communicating this, because I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, okay? I hope you don't mind, okay? they make the Tour de Rille.
Yeah.
They talk about it. There's like rumors that Putin owns one and like whatnot, right? And that's it. They just go silent for a while.
Yeah, and that was 2005.
Right.
That's 20 years ago.
And that was the most complicated watch like ever.
Wristwatch in the world at the time.
At the wristwatch, yeah, exactly. Patek sees that, they're like, okay, fine, we can do something kind of like that. Okay, let's do the Sky Moon, which is kind of like, already it's not quite Tour de Rille complication, but it's pretty close, right? And then they were like, okay, fine, we'll do the 6300. You know, we'll just like take Vacheron's crown, right? And they're done. And I suspect they'll be done for quite a while. Vacheron, and they communicate this to everyone, right? Like, oh, you know, like we have like the world's first chiming calendar watch. So basically,
which is a big deal.
It is a big deal, right? But like they make sure it's a big deal, and they make sure that we know it's a big deal. Vacheron, like stealth mode, okay, releases watches that are far more complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, the astronomical complications, like mixed with like all the calendars and the sunrise and the sunset, and then the Chinese calendar pocket watch. Like,
we have to talk about that one.
Okay, we'll go there next, right? And what do they communicate? I feel that there's no push, like they don't want people to know. As you said, Calvinistic kind of like, okay, we'll just if we make it, they will come. Yes, but like in today's world, you need to show people that you're making it. I can't even find these pictures on the website, like of all the watches that I spoke about. Like,
I don't know. I think it's a question we'll have to ask them. Maybe it's because they don't want to put only one project, one watch forward, rather than the whole collection of everything they have. But I do believe that, you know, these watches, they're extraordinary, and they're made by extraordinary watchmakers. And when you think of this, the pocket watch that was made last year, with 63 complications. I mean, this is a whole different level of complication.
This, right?
And it has the Chinese calendar, which is based on the moon and the sun, which is, you can't sit there and calculate, you know, 31 teeth and 31 here, there. No. So basically, they took the cosmos and made a mechanical projection of it. And then it gives you the calendar for the harvest. So you know that in this period you have to go harvest corn, and this period you have to go harvest wheat, and et cetera, et cetera. The thing is mind-boggling. How many watchmaking firsts are there in that watch? Because I don't recall ever seeing a Chinese sun and moon based calendar in a wristwatch or a pocket watch, for that matter, in one. I don't recall seeing a harvest calendar in any mechanical object, whether a watch, pocket watch, or grandfather clock. No, everything in that watch is new. And you have to say kudos to the gentleman who commissioned it and who waited 10 years to get it, and who was one of the world's, and his name was known as, it's Charles Buckley, sorry, not Barkley, not the basketball player, who was known and who gave his name to the watch. And kudos to the team, 3 watchmakers who worked on it and managed to make it work. And Vacheron, as far as I know, is the only brand, let's say main brand, because you can go to smaller brands and they will make a bespoke watch for you, but you can go to Vacheron and they can make a bespoke watch for you. They can make a bespoke movement for you. They can make a bespoke case for you. They can make so they're continuing.
And it's not an independent, right? Like we're talking about like a huge
Richemont
behemoth
owned brand, where you can go and they will make a watch for you, which is in the exact tradition of what all these brands were doing 50, 60, 100 years ago. And some of the greatest advances in horology came from patrons who are having watches made for them. I mean, the Packards and the Graves of this world, they basically made, you know, they allowed Patek now to talk about the other Geneva brand, what it is today, because
they funded the research and development.
They were fighting, they were competing with each other. Each wanted to have something which is more than what the other one had. And they all went to Patek and said, make me this, make me this. And that's how, you know, Patek developed and became such an important brand it is today. And to go back, I don't know why Vacheron Constantin does not communicate as much, in my opinion, as it should, because I think a lot of people, if they realized what this brand can do, it would be getting much more love than it actually does.
100% agree. And I think this, what you just said gives more credence and weight behind the statement you made, the new kid on the block. You know, it's almost like this huge non-independent company is acting like an independent, you know, like true to its kind of roots to traditional watchmaking heritage. We don't need to show what we're doing, but we can do anything for anyone. And if you become a patron and decide to kind of like push our limits, we can happily surprise you.
Exactly.
Right? Like we can produce what you want us to.
I think they took the long and hard route. You know what they call the Holy Grail, or the Holy Trinity of watchmaking?
Yeah.
Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin. Audemars Piguet has probably the most iconic of iconic watches, the Royal Oak, the first steel integrated bracelet, sports watch, etc. The watch where every other similar watch compares to. It's a benchmark. It's been there for over 50 years. Iconic. Patek Philippe, the perpetual calendar chronograph that started in 1941 with the 1518, and it's been in their catalog from 1941 to today, 2025. Icon, you look at it and the auction results shine a light even more on it. Vacheron Constantin never had that immediately identifiable iconic model. We can talk about the 222. It wasn't. It became iconic when all the other sports watches became iconic. And they made it basically for 6 years, whereas the Nautilus has been in the catalog for close to 50 years and the Royal Oak for over 50 years. So I think Vacheron took much more time to build the persona or the character that collectors can recognize today. So it took a much longer time. It took a more difficult road. And I think if they continue, like, you know, pushing the boundaries, and in a previous discussion, we're talking about creativity. And I do find that there's a lot of Vacheron Constantin watches that are highly creative, both technically and aesthetically. If they continue going, I think we'd sit here in some time and say, yeah, Vacheron Constantin is definitely not undervalued.
Not
in
anymore.
any way. Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons why I think it's undervalued, I mean, and we'll put retail to the side for a minute, okay? Because like I believe that in collectors' minds, if you show them a rare handcraft, okay, from Patek, okay, I don't know why I'm bashing Patek. Please don't block me, Theory's turn. Allocate my watches. If you look at he's gonna do it. If you look at a rare handcrafts piece and you look at a La Cabinotte or Métier d'Art piece, right? Boy, thin ice. I would definitely say that the Vacheron is better made. It's made better. Now, I know that you may not be allowed to take a stance on this.
I don't think it's a stance because I've never compared any of them side by side. I think what Patek does, which is very good, is they make these rare handcrafts, they make it into an event. They'll make an exhibition in their Geneva salon,
okay.
Then they'll go do an exhibition in Singapore, then they'll go, and they bring this to the collectors and to the community. Vacheron, basically, you'll see it at Watches and Wonders, and then it's gone. So it's the thing of, you know, Vacheron is it Calvinistic? Is it they don't want to communicate? Is it that they don't want to communicate only on one collection because they want everything to be on the same level? They don't do that. So obviously, and in today's world, you have to communicate. If you do not communicate, people do not know.
So again, we're coming back to this recurring theme that it's a communication issue.
I think so.
So the billiards table and the hot rods will travel around the world, whereas the hot air balloon, unfortunately, stays in Switzerland.
Exactly.
Ironically.
Exactly.
I see. That being said, I think I'm allowed to say this. You may not be allowed to say this. I still think that Vacheron's art pieces are much better made than the Patek pieces. I don't know what it is. I know exactly what it is actually, but like I don't want to get into details without having two physical watches to compare. But like I believe that they are definitely much better made, and I think that their value or perception in the community's minds does not represent what is actually in the watch. And well, I think that's kind of...
I think one thing that Vacheron does have over Patek Philippe in terms of métier d'art...
Get you?
No, it's the fact that they've been doing it much longer.
Uh-huh.
If you, and I'm not talking about the 40s, 50s, where you had these absolutely beautiful cloisonné enamel dials, or the, on the Patek Philippe, or the two crown world times with cloisonné dials, which were phenomenal.
That's something else. That's something
But
else.
if you look at the 80s onwards, Vacheron very early on, the 90s with the Mercator, they used the cloisonné enamel dials. Then they had the Birds of America with cloisonné enamel dials. And then they had these skeletonized, engraved perpetual calendars. And then you go on.
You don't even need to go that complicated. Just look at the malts, the skeletonized malts.
Exactly. And so basically since the 1990s, so that's what, 30 years ago, it's been constant. It's a constant in their collection. Some are, in my opinion, better made, not better made or like, more appealing than others, but it's constant. Whereas I think the Patek rare handcrafts, it's a more recent addition to the collection, or a more recent way of communicating around it. But maybe now you'll get your allocations for Vacheron.
Oh, definitely. I can get any Vacheron that I want right now, but I'm not getting any Calatravas anytime soon, apparently. I say that, and I've owned more Calatravas, okay, than any Vacheron, actually. You know, like, I say that, and I don't...
You say that out of love for both brands.
True.
Let's put it this way. We always criticize those who we love, huh?
Well said. Well said. But I am wearing a Vacheron today, so, like...
And it's a lovely piece. It is a lovely piece, and Vacheron, they have a lot of different art forms, and they're all inside. They have the engraver, they have this famous gouache artist, they have their own in-house enameler, they have their gem setter, they have this and that, and it works, and they put them together. And I think there's magic. One thing that they're doing really well is, in my opinion, at a certain time they would try to have too many métiers d'arts in one watch. So you had gouache, engraving, gem setting, this, and it was like, it was non-palatable. It was just too much. And I think in the past few years, they're just focusing per watch on one specific métier d'art, which is much more embellishing. It's less heavy to the eye, it's much more pleasant, etc. So I think, they're definitely doing a very good job. And I would one day love to have one of those watches, with those four apertures and a central artwork. But for example, the Austere, which is the hot air balloons, it's one of the most beautiful watches in the world for me.
I can't, like, when they first came out, I think there was 3 or 4 of them. I can't remember.
There's 4 of them. 4.
Yeah. A friend of mine who had the budget to buy one, he was like, "Which one do you think I should get?" I was like, "I don't know. Pick whichever one speaks to you the most." He was like, "If it was you, which one would you pick?" And I was looking. And I thought I would give an answer like fairly quickly, I couldn't decide. It was so difficult.
And I'll tell you one thing. These watches came out, I think, about 7-8 years ago. There hasn't been a single one on the market.
That speaks volumes.
Those who have one, they're keeping it.
I think we can leave it there, because like nothing says like this was made for collectors.
Yeah.
Then that's safe.
It doesn't come. Yeah.
Not undervalued.
Exactly.
In a few years.
Starting now.
Starting
this conversation. Thanks, Adel.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.